So what causes love and war? There are many environments where love and war come to be. However, we're particularly going to look at relationships and use relationships as our framework for understanding how love and war are created. So let's start with war. All war begins with knowledge. When you know something, you will fight for that knowledge. Additionally, you will fight for the enforcement of that knowledge. When you know what is good or what is evil, you will conduct war to make sure that that knowledge is upheld. At the same time, love is caused by desire. When you desire something or someone, you will create immense expressions of love in order to bring about the union between you and the one you desire. Now, both of these realities, both knowledge and desire, are spiritual. The reason we know this is you cannot explain very well, mentally, emotionally, or even physically, what you know and what you desire, because knowledge and desire exist before you think, feel, and act. They are spiritual realities. And you want to know where the most dramatic love and war come from? That's when your knowledge unites with desire. When your spiritual knowledge collides with spiritual desire, we get the most dramatic expressions of love and war. So particularly in relationships, when you know who you desire, you will create war against anything that's in your way. You will also create immense love in order to bring about the union that you desire with the one you know you want. So in the end, we can see that creation, the act of creation, takes place when spiritual knowledge and spiritual desire unite and come together. So how do love and war work? Well, the first we see is warring separation, and men particularly have a natural bent towards separation, and that means war. Men will draw that line, and anybody who steps over that line, well, you're going to get war. That's how it is. That's based on what he knows is good and evil, and he wants to draw that line to separate those two things. The woman, though, is much more attuned to the loving union. So she wants to create the love that will bring about the union. So let's look at when a marriage comes through the dating process. The man sees dating, particularly with the woman's family, as a war. She's part of this family, and he's got to go in there and he's got to separate her from that family and bring her to be his wife. That is an act of war, and the woman wants him to do that. At the same time, she's not really focused on the separation. She's focused on being the desirable source, the radiant being of light that will inspire him to come and separate her, but she's only interested primarily in creating the loving union between her and her potential husband. It's the same reality going on. He's coming in and taking her out of the relationship, but the man and the woman see it from different perspectives. The man from the warring separation perspective, and the woman from the loving union perspective. However, they're becoming one. Here we have war and love becoming a simultaneous separational union. So although we see war and love in the world around us, and it looks like they're different events, in actuality they're supposed to be one. The man and the woman are to be one. The man's war and the woman's love are to come together, to be one and the same. And that hints that this is all a show. God's trying to show us something, that this warring man and this loving woman are to become one. Why? Because he is both war and love simultaneously. So a man's war and a woman's love are to be an ever-expanding oneness. And that's going to give us a little bit of a glimpse into more of who God is as the one who is both war and love at the same time. So then why do love and war exist? And we've got some clues here. We want to flush it out further. The first is to display separation. Men are very apt to come in and display separation. He's going to separate the woman from her family. That's very visual. That's very graphic. It's displaying the masculine nature of separation, and separation is good. If you look at the 7 days of creation, the first 3 days were all about separation. He's separating the darkness from the light, the lower waters from the upper waters. He's separating the land from the water. These are all good things. They're essential. However, it's also about displaying union. The warring separation prepares for the union. Why? Because you need two things that are separate in order to prepare a union. However, in the same perspective, you can't separate something until it's first united. So it's very difficult to say which comes first, isn't it? And that's the point. That's what he's trying, God himself. He's trying to create this visual display of how separation and union are really one together. You can't have them individually. You need both together, because the whole point of love and war is to display God. Now, we get confused at this point because we think that our separation is actually God's separation. Clearly it's not. The war that we conduct as human beings, or even as a man in a relationship, that's not God's war. That's not God's separation. That's our interpretations. It's interesting, but it's essentially worthless in depicting God. In the same way, though, our love is also not God's love. So although our creations of loving union are interesting, they hold no specific value in displaying God. You're supposed to go to God first, learn from His separational union, and consider how He treats your soul. He's going to separate your soul from this world. Even separate your soul from your own mind and heart body. He's going to tear you out. Tear your soul out of all this created matter. And then He's going to unite with you in a spiritual union. That's the display that we're supposed to be putting on in a relationship between a man and a woman. The man and the woman are displaying how God treats our souls, and the woman displays how the soul is being treated. This is a valuable partnership. So humanity's love and war are hinting, whispering at the one who is love and war. And the only way you can put that show on for creation is to have God enact His love and war upon your soul. Then you have the context, the personal experience you need to partner with either a man or a woman and put on this relational show before the world. So who creates love and war? Well, first, we see that dramatic war is brought about by a determined separator. You are going to bring separation, and therefore, war is inevitable. The more determined you are, the more graphic the war will be. That's how it works. If you're focused and determined to separate, war is inevitable. At the same time, a determined uniter will not stop until love is created. And the more determined you are to bring that union, the more dramatic the love will be. At the bottom of this, though, it's not really about being a separator and a uniter. These are the two parts of being one as a creator. As a creator, your determination dictates how graphic, how glorious, how wondrous your creations will be. And some of those creations we recognize as either love or war. So if you want to be a creator, you must be determined, not just to bring forth love or war, but to bring forth both. And it helps if you have a partner in this. And women tend to be very determined uniters. Men generally are very determined in their separation. So this partnership is very beneficial in displaying the creator. So love and war must exist. Why? Because the creators love and war, but their intensity depends upon determination. The more determined you are as a creator, the more dramatic your expressions of love and war will be.